What secret were you never meant to know, but you found out anyway? When I was 14, I went snooping through my mom's desk drawer looking for cash. It was her birthday the next day, and I wanted to buy her a candle or something cheap from the mall. We didn't have much money, so I thought maybe I'd find a 20. Instead, I found a sealed envelope addressed to me. It was a birthday card. But it wasn't from my mom. It was from my dad. The thing is, my dad died when I was 2. At least, that's what I'd always been told. But the card said, "I know I have no right to reach out after all these years, but I think about you every day. I hope your mom can forgive me one day. No return address. Just love, Dad." I froze. I confronted my mom that night. She broke down, told me he wasn't dead, that he had walked out when I was a toddler, that he was addicted to drugs and dangerous, that he begged to come back when I turned 10, and she said no. She never gave me the card, just kept it. Every year, he'd send another. She burned most of them. To this day, I don't know where he is or if he's alive. I don't even know his full story. But every birthday, I wonder if there's a card I'll never see. In college, I dated this girl named Harper. She was smart, magnetic, the kind of person who walks into a room and subtly becomes the center of it. We dated for 6 months. I thought I knew everything about her. I'd met her friends, her family, even her childhood dog. One night, I borrowed her laptop to order food. She said, "Sure, just don't open the downloads folder," laughing. Obviously, I didn't plan to. But when I went to save the receipt, I accidentally clicked the wrong thing. Inside the downloads folder were PDFs, medical ones. Out of pure reflex, I opened one. It was a prescription history for testosterone blockers. I stared at the screen for a full minute before closing it. I didn't say anything that night, or the next day, but it sat in my brain like a weight. And eventually I brought it up, awkward, nervous, terrified of messing it up. She didn't deny it, just looked at me with this mixture of fear and sadness and said, "I thought I'd get to tell you on my terms." We talked, for hours, about who she used to be, who she is, the violence of feeling like a secret. We didn't last. Too much pressure, too young, too many people watching. But we stayed friends. And to this day, I've never told a soul her dead name. Not because I'm protecting a secret, but because it's none of mine to keep. I worked at a startup with one of those fun office cultures. Beanbags, pizza Fridays, ping pong tables, the whole tech bro vibe. Our CEO, Jason, was this charismatic guy in his 30s. Brilliant, energetic, always talking about disruption and hustle. Everyone admired him. One day, the office manager asked me to go into our shared storage room to grab some old signage for a trade show. No problem. I went in, flipped on the light, and immediately noticed something weird. There was a space in the back, behind a loose panel that I'd never noticed before. Curiosity won. I pulled it open. Inside was a duffel bag and a stack of black notebooks. I opened one. Each page had a woman's name, her job title, and what looked like notes. Handwritten, detailed notes. Not work-related. Personal. Disturbingly so. One page said, "Carmen, customer success. Emotionally vulnerable. Split from fiancé last year. Flirt back. Slow build." Another. "Allison, design intern. Responds to praise. Avoid contact when she brings up boundaries." There were at least 12 women listed. Some didn't even work there anymore. There were check marks next to some names, underlined phrases. A few pages had attached photos printed from social media. I backed out of that room like I just opened a crime scene. I took photos of a few pages with my phone. I thought about reporting it, but HR was a joke. Just another 2 bros from sales. And most of the women had already quit. I did too. 2 weeks later. Never spoke a word of it to anyone at the office, but I still have those photos saved, just in case someone ever needs them. My uncle died suddenly, heart attack in his sleep. He was one of those eccentric, reclusive types. Never married, lived alone, collected old tools and military surplus gear. I liked him. He gave me my first pocket knife, taught me how to pitch a tent and tie real knots. After the funeral, my dad and I were asked to help clean out his stuff. Most of it was junk. Old camo jackets, broken radios, prepping gear. Then we found a key marked S42. It was for a storage unit. My dad figured it was just where he kept overflow junk, maybe camping gear. We opened it on a cold, gray Saturday. Inside were stacks of boxes, labeled by year. Some went back to the 80s, Most were just filled with notebooks, like hundreds, each one dated, indexed. I flipped one open. It was surveillance, handwritten logs of people's routines, license plates, who visited whose house, where they parked, when lights turned on and off. There were maps of the neighborhood with little circles drawn in red ink, and photos. Photos of people who didn't know they were being watched. Women at grocery stores, kids walking home from school. One box was labeled Parade Day 2009. Inside, over 100 printed photos of strangers from that event, some with notes like recurs every May or possible route overlap. I still don't know what he was doing. No one does. My dad burned everything without a word. He never wanted to talk about it. Said, "He's gone. Let him be gone." A few years ago, I was helping my older sister plan her wedding. She's never been good with computers, so she gave me her old MacBook and asked me to clean it up and move anything important to her new laptop. Basic stuff. Emails, photos, vendor quotes. While sorting through her files, I found a folder labeled Wedding with subfolders for everything. Flowers, dress fittings, venue contracts. I almost skipped it, but something about the last folder, named just Private, caught my attention. I opened it. Inside were screenshots, dozens of them, all from her fiancé's phone, text messages, DMs, nude photos from other women. Some of the messages were dated after they'd gotten engaged. He wasn't just flirting, he was meeting up with them. Hotels, bars, random excuses to work late. And the worst part? My sister knew. The folder wasn't a discovery. It was evidence. There was even a PDF she had written titled, What to Do If I Leave. A whole plan. How she'd move back in with our parents. What she'd tell his family. What she'd do with the non-refundable deposits. But she hadn't left. They still got married 2 months later. I never told her I saw the folder. I stood at that wedding, smiling for photos, knowing everything she was pretending not to know. I still don't know what's worse, that he cheated, or that she married him anyway. My mom's best friend, Darlene, was a therapist. She had this peaceful little office above a bookstore, all incense and jazz music and herbal tea. When I was in high school, I used to wait there after school for my mom to pick me up, especially on rainy days. Darlene didn't mind. I'd sit quietly, do homework in the lobby, sometimes talk with her between clients. One day, she got called out during a session, something about a car blocking the fire lane, and asked me to watch the front desk for literally 2 minutes. While I sat there, I noticed a file drawer slightly open, not locked. Curiosity, boredom. I pulled it. Inside were manila folders, labeled, names I recognized. One was the principal of my school, another was a girl I sat next to in homeroom. There were case notes, typed and handwritten, therapy notes. I opened one at random. It was about a guy I knew, my friend's dad. It detailed his depression, his affair, his suicidal ideation. Word for word, thoughts he had confessed in that room, written in Darlene's clean handwriting. There were phrases like, still fantasizing about driving into traffic, expressed guilt about teenage daughter's distance. I slammed the drawer shut. Darlene never knew I saw. I never told anyone. But I stopped trusting adults after that. Not because she was careless, but because I realized how much people carry inside, right under the surface, just pretending to function. I used to work at a small family-owned hardware store. It was the kind of place where the same 5 people opened and closed every day, and customers knew us by name. The owner, Frank, was in his 60s. Cheerful, harmless-seeming guy who wore suspenders and gave out Werther's Originals to kids. One afternoon, while helping him with something on his office computer, he asked me to download a PDF from his email. He gave me the password and left to take a call. I opened the wrong folder by accident. It was labeled Inventory 2012, but inside were subfolders labeled with women's names. I knew some of them. They were women from town, customers. One of them was a woman I knew went to our church. Another was a mom whose kid I used to babysit. Against my better judgment, I clicked one folder. It contained screenshots of their Facebook profiles, edited photos with filters, and text files that read like diary entries. Except he had written them. Stuff like, she wore the blue scarf again today. I think she knows it drives me crazy. When she laughed at my joke, it felt like a secret between us. It was delusional, obsessive. I backed out fast and pretended I never saw anything. But from that day on, I couldn't look him in the eye. I quit 2 weeks later, gave some excuse about school, Last I checked, the store's still open. Still run by Frank. I just hope the people walking in have no idea what kind of man is behind the counter. When I was 16, my friend Tyler invited me to his house after school. His parents were always weirdly strict, but they were out that afternoon, and we had the place to ourselves. We played Xbox, made frozen pizza, did normal teenager stuff. At one point, I went to the kitchen and noticed a small brass key on the counter. It had a tag that said basement. I asked Tyler what it was for. He shrugged and said his parents didn't let him down there. Just storage or whatever. That made me curious. When he went to the bathroom, I grabbed the key. The basement door was behind the laundry room. I crept down the stairs, expecting shelves of paint cans and old Christmas lights, but it was empty. Except for one thing. A single metal table in the middle of the room. On it, neatly arranged, were about a dozen animal collars, dogs, cats, even one with a tiny bell. There were also old Polaroids. Most were faded. But a few showed animals in cages. One photo showed a girl, maybe 8 or 9, holding a kitten. The back said, "She cried less this time." I heard footsteps upstairs. I panicked, ran back up, and pretended nothing happened. I never told Tyler what I saw, never asked questions. I just stopped going to his house, stopped answering his texts. But sometimes I wonder, was it his secret or his parents'? And which answer would have been worse? When my grandfather died, my family went to clean out his old farmhouse. He was a tough, no-nonsense kind of guy, served in Korea, ran a construction business, drank his coffee black, and hated cell phones. We all thought we knew who he was, gruff but reliable, a man's man. I volunteered to clean out the attic, mostly because I didn't want to be around the grieving chaos downstairs. Up there, buried under a pile of toolboxes and tax records, I found a locked metal box. I expected maybe old war medals or insurance papers. I forced it open with a screwdriver. Inside was a leather-bound journal. It wasn't dated, just entries, dozens of them. At first it was normal. Thoughts about the war, about coming home, about feeling like a stranger in his own country. Then it got strange, dark. He wrote about a woman. Not my grandmother. A woman named E. He described their affair in intense detail. How they met in 1963, how they kept it secret, for decades. How they had a daughter together, a daughter no one knew about. He wrote about visiting her on birthdays, slipping money into anonymous accounts, watching her from a distance as she grew up. There were no last names, no address, but he included one Polaroid of a toddler on a swing. The back just said, J, age 4. I never told my family. I still don't know who Jay is, but somewhere out there, I have an aunt who has no idea who her real father was. I work in consulting, and once a year, our team does an off-site retreat at this fancy resort up in the mountains. It's usually boring workshops and fake team-building games, but the hotel is nice and there's free food. We always get randomly assigned roommates to foster cross-functional bonding, which is corporate speak for we're cheap. That year I got paired with Eric, new guy, super polite, a little too quiet, kept his shoes lined up perfectly, always used his full name in emails, like, best regards, Eric M. Thompson. On the second night, I came back to the room early after drinks. Eric wasn't there yet. I went to the bathroom and noticed his laptop was open. Not snooping, just walking by. But what caught my eye was the tab on the screen. It was an Excel file titled, The List. I shouldn't have, but I clicked it. There were names, hundreds of them, full names, organized alphabetically, with columns like interaction, outcome, and judgment. I scrolled down and found my own name. It said, spoke 3 times, weak eye contact, low threat, no leverage. Other names had notes like gossip vector, flirtation, trap, avoid, prone to betrayal. See? Decrio 2021 called W. Andrea. It was like he was cataloging everyone at the company, like we were chess pieces or lab rats. When Eric came in, I was sitting on the bed pretending to look at my phone. He smiled and asked how the night went. I lied and said, fine. I requested a room change the next morning. HR said no. I quit the job a month later. Couldn't shake the feeling I'd been studied. Back in college, I lived with 3 other guys in a rented house just off campus. One of them, Ryan, was the quiet, mysterious type. Clean, polite, always kept to himself. He was an engineering major, barely spoke unless spoken to, and never really partied. We all kind of just assumed he was introverted and left him alone. One weekend, I was vacuuming the couch cushions in the living room before my girlfriend came over. I reached into the crack between the cushions and felt something small and plastic. Pulled it out, and it was a USB flash drive. I assumed it was mine at first, but when I plugged it into my laptop to check, what I found made my skin crawl. There were dozens of hidden camera videos, all from inside our own house, from the bathroom, the hallway, even one from inside someone's bedroom, propped on a shelf behind some books. Each video was labeled by date. I recognized one file from a day I'd brought my girlfriend over, and we used the upstairs bathroom. I freaked. Called the other roommates immediately. Within an hour, we were all in the living room, sick to our stomachs. No one wanted to believe it, but it was clearly Ryan's. His handwriting was on the label of the drive. He wasn't home at the time. We called the cops. When they came, we gave them the USB. They searched the house and found 2 more flash drives taped under Ryan's bed frame. He never came back. We found out later he was charged with invasion of privacy and had apparently done this at a previous apartment complex too. I still have trouble trusting shared spaces because of that. And I never sit on a couch cushion without wondering what secrets it's hiding. My roommate Matt was a chill guy. We weren't best friends, but we got along. Split bills on time, played FIFA, talked about girls, seemed normal. One night, he left his laptop open in the living room. I walked by and noticed Reddit was open. Nothing crazy, just r.askmen. I laughed, glanced at the username, ShadowEater93. Dumb, but whatever. Later that week, I was procrastinating on my own computer and thought, what if I looked him up? Just curiosity. I typed in the username. What I found made my stomach turn. There were hundreds of posts, hundreds, but not on Askmen. On subreddits like r incest confessions, r creep IPMs, and worst of all, r petite gone wild, where he constantly commented things like, "You look barely legal. Lucky for us." There were long rants about how modern women are manipulative and how he fantasized about control. One post admitted he used to steal panties from girls' laundry rooms in college just to feel something. I read for an hour. I couldn't stop. It was like watching a car crash. The worst part? He wrote about me, said I was the kind of weak man women walk all over. He mocked my ex, called her a dumb whore with a soft heart. I never confronted him, but I moved out 2 weeks later and blocked his number. I still sometimes wonder if he knows I saw it. Or worse, if someone else never will.